Have you ever noticed how the gym is completely packed on January 1st, but by the middle of February it is practically a ghost town? Every single year, millions of people set massive, life-changing goals. They swear to themselves that this is the year they are going to lose weight, read 50 books, build a wildly successful business, or completely transform their lives. They buy the gear, they download the apps, and they tell all their friends. And yet, statistics show that 90% of them will completely fail within the first 40 days. Why does this happen? Is it because they lack discipline? Is it because they are fundamentally lazy? No. It is because they are relying on the most fragile, useless weapon in the human psychological arsenal. They are relying on motivation. But what if I told you that the very act of trying to build a new habit is actually the exact reason you keep failing at it? Today, we are going to dive deep into the dark psychology of self-concept, and I am going to reveal the counterintuitive psychological mechanism that forces your brain to change on absolute autopilot. If you have ever felt like you are constantly fighting against yourself to achieve your goals, stick around until the end. Because the ultimate way to achieve everything you want is something that will completely contradict everything society has ever taught you about hard work. For years, I was trapped in this exact same cycle of miserable failure. Let me paint a picture for you. I wanted to become a person who read constantly. I wanted to be that intellectual who always had a book in their hands. So, I would set a massive goal to read 50 books a year. I would go to the bookstore, buy a huge stack of new books, place them perfectly on my nightstand, and force myself to read 10 pages every single night before bed. For the first week, I felt unstoppable. I felt like I was finally hacking my life. But by week 2, reading started to feel like a chore. By week 3, I was too tired from work, and I negotiated with myself to just skip one night. And by week 4, those books were just collecting dust, serving as a constant, depressing reminder of my own failure. I beat myself up constantly over this. I thought I lacked discipline. I thought I was just fundamentally lazy and destined to be mediocre. However, I was entirely missing the root cause of the problem. I was trying to change my actions while still deeply viewing myself as a person who hated reading. Subconsciously, my identity was still a non-reader. I was a non-reader trying desperately to act like a reader. And your brain, from an evolutionary standpoint, hates nothing more than a contradiction. To understand why we sabotage ourselves like this, we have to look at the psychology of cognitive dissonance and self-perception. According to decades of psychological research, human beings have a deep, biological, and almost obsessive need for internal consistency. Your brain desperately wants your actions in the physical world to match your identity in your mental world. When there is a mismatch between who you deeply believe you are and what you are currently doing, you experience a psychological phenomenon known as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a profound psychological discomfort. It feels like a physical tension in your body. It is the feeling of being a fraud. And your brain hates this feeling so much that it will do absolutely anything to resolve the tension and return to consistency. When you set a typical goal like, I want to run a marathon, you are focusing entirely on the outcome. You are essentially telling your brain, I am a lazy person who is currently trying very hard to run. Because your core identity has not actually changed, running feels like a massive, exhausting effort. It requires a tremendous amount of willpower because you are actively fighting against your own self-image. Every time you lace up your running shoes, your brain is screaming at you, telling you that this is not who you are. And here is the brutal truth about willpower. It is a finite resource. It is like a battery. Eventually, it runs out. And when it does, you snap right back to your default identity like a rubber band. You sit back down on the couch and you give up. But what happens when you flip the script? In his groundbreaking work on atomic habits, author James Clear introduces the revolutionary concept of identity-based habits. He argues that true behavior change is identity change. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, you must shift your entire focus to who you wish to become. Instead of saying, I am trying to run, you simply state, I am a runner. Instead of saying, I want to stop smoking, you say, I am not a smoker. This subtle linguistic shift changes absolutely everything about how your brain processes the action. If this psychological shift is starting to make sense, hit the like button right now, because deeply understanding this one concept is the absolute key to unlocking permanent, effortless change in your life. Let's look at the hard science behind this. This concept is deeply rooted in self-perception theory, developed by renowned psychologist Darrell Bem. The theory states that we don't always know who we are internally until we observe our own behavior externally. We learn about ourselves the same way we learn about other people, by watching what we do. Your identity is not carved in stone at birth. It is not a permanent fixture of your soul. It is literally just a belief, and beliefs can be rewritten. According to James Clear, every single time you perform an action, you are casting a vote for the type of person you wish to become. When you put on your running shoes and walk out the front door, you cast a vote for being a runner. When you sit down and read one single page of a book, you cast a vote for being a reader. You do not need to read 50 books to consider yourself a reader. You do not need to run a marathon to consider yourself a runner. You just need to read one page today. You just need to run for 5 minutes today. By focusing on small, undeniable, atomic actions, you provide your brain with hard, physical evidence of your new identity. Once that new identity takes root in your subconscious, cognitive dissonance begins working for you instead of against you. If you truly, deeply believe that you are an athlete, skipping a workout starts to feel psychologically uncomfortable. The dissonance kicks in when you sit on the couch. You are no longer forcing yourself to go to the gym using willpower. You are simply acting in alignment with who you are. Therefore, the habit is no longer a brutal daily struggle. It becomes your default state. You go to the gym because athletes go to the gym, and you are an athlete. This brings us to the ultimate paradox of self-improvement, and perhaps the most important lesson you will ever learn about human behavior. The people who are the most successful at achieving their massive goals are the ones who completely stop obsessing over the goals themselves. The goal is merely a direction on a map. It is a compass setting, not a destination to be worshipped. If you want to permanently change your life, you must stop trying to achieve results. You must completely abandon the outcome. You must let go of the 50 books, the 20 pounds, or the $1 million. Instead, you must aggressively and relentlessly focus on shifting your identity. The next time you want to build a new habit or break a destructive one, do not ask yourself what you want to achieve. Stop looking at the finish line. Instead, ask yourself, who is the type of person that could achieve this? What would that person do today? And then go cast one tiny, microscopic vote for that person. Are you going to keep fighting a losing battle against your own self-image? Or are you going to finally step into the identity of the person you were always meant to be? The choice is entirely yours.